Good morning to all of you. Hope you are keeping well. And I saw your journal entries last week, and that was very good. Many of you have captured your experiences, and have entered to the journal with details. So we were doing the mindfulness meditations step by step. First about the body, then about the sensations, then third level was mindfulness on mental states, and it is the fourth level, the last level that we are discussing now. So in the mental state discussion, we were focusing on how the state of the mind change, like a state machine changing from one state to another. But we know that change is brought by volitions, the process of thinking. So the fourth level of mindfulness, which we are discussing now, which is mindfulness of mental objects, it's a broad area. We decided that we will not have time to cover the whole aspects of that fourth level. Instead, we chose few aspects like sense faculties and aggregates, and also hindrances. Three areas to discuss, especially up to hindrances, because we need the knowledge of that part, the hindrances, to discuss about the samadhi or the concentration states later. So we were discussing about the eye last time and the ear. Out of the 6 sense faculties, 2 of them we discussed. So today we will discuss the remaining 4 sense faculties. You may remember that there is another name for sense faculties. Sometimes they are referred as sense spheres. Sense faculties or sense spheres. Remember both names. And so there are 4 remaining. We will be discussing the remaining 4, and then we will be putting them together to discuss how they arise. What are the factors that cause the arousal of sense faculties and the causes. Then we will discuss the passing away, rising and passing away of sense faculties. After that, we are moving into another area, which will be mindfulness on aggregates. I will explain the word at that time. So today, that is what the time will permit today. We can discuss up to the aggregates, and we can do small practice session as well. So that is the plan today. Let's start from where we stopped. Let me share my screen. You can ask questions by voice at any time, or if you prefer, you can type in the chat. By the way, since I have read the journal entries, for some of you, I have already typed the feedback. For some, I could not, but I have read all of them, and I will try to relate some answers to the lecture itself today. And some of you have done the mindfulness of the eye and the ear, have described your experiences in the journal. Okay, the sense faculties or sense spheres. This is all about yourself. We are trying to first become mindfulness of myself and then mindful of the others. So yourself have certain inputs uh, like color, the vision, for example, and the hearing, and the taste, and the touch, and also the mind itself has its own thoughts as inputs. So if you consider yourself as a system, it will have inputs, it will have some process, then it will produce some outputs. Inputs, process, and outputs. So under this part, we are discussing the inputs. Outputs we are going to discuss later. Uh, the sense faculties we identified: eyes, ears, nose, the body, and the tongue. Uh, these sense faculties give inputs to the mind continuously. Even right now, if you become self-aware, you can see your eyes are giving you inputs, ears are giving you inputs, and nose, some smell. The body, there will be places of the body touching maybe chair, and even the wind might be touching the skin. You feel that now. The tongue, do we feel a taste at this moment? We may not be having any meals right now, I assume, but the tongue always has a taste, always. We will discuss about that today. So one by one, now eyes we finished. Uh, Discussion on eyes, I think we did last time. So that part was done. Ear also we discussed. What are the key points? We found that what is outside is known as the form, like visual form is there outside the eye, but through the eye contact, color perception will be generated. Similarly, for the ear, what is outside the ear is sound form, not the sound. Sound form means the ingredients need to generate the sounds for the mind. And through the ear contact, the sound perception will be generated. And we saw the limitation of these two with respect to the waves or the frequencies. We found that only some frequencies we can see, some frequencies we can hear. The other frequencies, other waves, we can't catch by the eye or the ear. What is the hearing range of the ear? Frequency range? Typically, you hear from about 20 hertz to about 20 kilohertz. Actually, not 20, typically 15 kilohertz. As you get older, that frequency band become even more compressed. I mean, much less. So therefore, although there are lots of waves out there, we can convert the waves to color perceptions or sound perceptions only for small frequency ranges. Other frequencies we can't pick up from these sensors. So we will discuss a little bit about the others now. We know the visual form. This is a summary of last time, visual form or color form, which is not the color. It's a kind of energy or the wave will be picked up by the eyes, and consciousness, eye consciousness should appear. Eye consciousness should appear. if we are not conscious about the eye at that moment, we will not see, although the eyes may be open. Now, when the eye is in contact with the color form and the consciousness also appear, that we call the contact. The combination of the three, we call it the contact, eye contact. Due to the eye contact, we will have certain things generated. What are the things? There was sensation, and there was color perception, and resulting visual volitions by the mind. So sensations, I'm using S to make it short. Perceptions about the color, and visual volitions, which is some processing or some thinking about the color done by the mind. So all these will be coupled to the mind for further processing. So further processing here we will be discussing with a later diagram I will show. But I think eye contact is clear now. If any of these three are missing, eye contact will not happen. What are the three? First is the eye, that small place. We call the, at that last time I showed you the diagram of the eye, and you saw where the sensing happens. That should be there. Color form should be there. Eye consciousness should be there. When all three are present, we call it eye contact. Similarly, when the sound form, which is the energy of those frequencies coming from outside, this is not sound, it is sound form. That and the eardrum and the consciousness, ear consciousness, when all three are together, we call it ear contact. From the ear contact, again, sensations, perceptions, and sound volitions will be generated for further processing by the mind. Those are the two we finished. Others bit similar. For the nose, again, consciousness will come, nose contact will be there. Tongue, the same way. Body, the same way. There will be the touch form here, will be converted to, again, sensations and perceptions and volitions. About the mind, the last one, the mental formations, when all the other inputs are not there. Suppose you are having the eyes closed, ears you are not listening, nose you are not paying attention, these other consciousness are not there, then mind itself will be generating thoughts. So mental formations will be what you remembered as mental formations will be taken up by the mind, and mental consciousness will appear on what you remembered, and again mind will generate its own sensations, mental perceptions, and mental volitions. So these are the four we will discuss now. These two we have finished. What is our aim here? Aim here is to be self-conscious, or increasing awareness of what is happening at the inputs of yourself. Therefore, we define the mindfulness on sense faculties as this: awareness of the sense faculties as they occur and as they are at the present moment. For example, present moment you are looking at the screen. So you generate awareness of the eye because the eye has occurred now. And as it is, you identify at this present moment what is the process happening there for me to see the screen. And right now you hear my voice, and you focus on the eardrum and become fully aware right now, what is the process of this hearing? Okay, so as they happen, these processes, we focus and trying to become mindful of. But that is not the end of it. There is another part called contemplation to mix with this, which I will show in a later slide. Okay. The third sense faculty is the nose. And although this part is called the nose by people, meditators don't call this part as the nose. This is the body. Because when you touch this area, you feel you don't feel smell, you feel irritation, which is due to the body. It is a touch. So these parts are not nose, they are body. The nose is the sensor. Where is it? It is here. So for meditation, this is the nose where the sensing happens. The smell form will be entering here and will be in this area. Smell form is not smell. It is the necessary ingredients for our nose here to make a smell, to generate smell perception. So smell form will enter into this area and will be touching the nose, but the contact will not happen yet. But is a missing factor for the contact to take place, which is the consciousness. If the mind consciousness does not appear on the nose, smell will not be sensed or will not be sampled. So third factor necessary is nose consciousness, which is actually the mind appearing, paying attention to this point. So three things: smell form, the nose, and the nose consciousness. Smell form, the nose, and the nose consciousness. When all three are simultaneously present or present at the same moment, then we call it a nose contact. And as nose contact take place, immediately or simultaneously, there are other phenomena happening. Like what? There will be a feeling or sensation, okay, which we call nasal sensations. Nasal sensations. Usually it is neutral, and then smell perception will appear in the mind. So you will be able to identify the smell. And then smell volitions will take place. Volitions are the necessary activity of the mind to think about the smell. What type of smell and from which kind of things that smell comes, those thoughts will be generated by the mind. They are smell volitions or smell related volitions. Okay, I think you have come across many types of smell. Some of them are very bad smells. Some of them are very sweet smells. When you sense a very sweet smell, what happens to the mind? Immediately with the smell volitions, there will be emotions mixed. What kind of emotions? If it is a sweet smell, mental state will become lustful. A lustful mental state will appear, liking that particular smell. So a mental state change will occur to a lustful state change. And the emotion will be such that there will be what is called fetter. Feta means kind of attachment. Kind of attachment to the worldly things. So mental state with feta can be observed in your mind. Suppose it is a very bad smell, a disliking will occur. Disliking is also a kind of feta, a binding thing. So mental state will become hostile. Hostile means that smell you don't like. When something you don't like happens, it is hostile mental state. That hostility is also a kind of feta. Feta means a binding thing to the worldly things. Okay, hope it is clear. Let me go back. Okay, smell form will appear, will be touching the nose. These two will be always touching each other, but we don't call it the touch until this happens. Not nose consciousness occur. So together they make the nose contact, resulting nasal sensations, smell perceptions and smell volitions will take place to change the state of the mind to a new mental state with feta. Okay, that is a summary of what's happening at the nose. Right now, can you pay attention to the nose? This area, you can pay attention to that area. Maybe you can close your eyes, that will be easier then, just to get some experience about this. If you can close the eyes and pay attention to the nose. Okay, some smell you can sense now. The nose consciousness is appearing there. And samples of smell will be taken to the mind. Become aware, okay, it's happening right now. Nasal contacts are happening one after the other. Nasal contact appear and disappear. Reappear and disappear. It happens at a rapid pace. Smell perception you can experience now. Okay, based on the smell perception, you can see, you can experience the mental state now. Whether it becomes hostile towards the smell or whether it becomes liking or lustful towards the smell, or whether the mind is not interested, or whether the mind is overthinking about a lot of details about the smell. Based on that, you can classify your mental state. So, and you can repeatedly do this. You can open the eyes. You can repeatedly do this and slowly the awareness of this sense faculty will build up in the mind. One important thing to remember is that you will never see your nose, isn't it? Till death. This part you will not be able to see. So only way you can perceive it is by thinking about it, using your mind. And that is why this nose is considered a mental object. Mental object because only through your mind you can see this. No one has seen this area of himself from birth to death. That's why this is called a mental object. The physical nose may be here. We are not, meditators are not interested in that part. It is this area, the activity we are discussing. And another important point to remember is that the smell form and the smell perception which appears in the mind are different. smell form and the smell perception are different. For example, the same smell form, which is picked up by the nose of an animal, that animal will get a different perception than a human. So there are various types of noses in animals, in living beings. So the same smell form will generate different amount of smell perceptions, different types of smell perceptions, and different types of mental states in different living beings. That is something we should understand. Smell form may be the same, but smell perception and the mental state will be widely different from person to person or from living being to living being. Okay. I'm not getting any questions even over the chat. But I saw some of you have done during last week about the hearing. About the hearing, some of you have practiced, and I saw that experience in the journal. That's really good. But what I noticed is that most of you may not have practiced the full meditation. That contemplation part of arising due to causes and vanishing when the causes are absent, that part was actually, that is a difficult part. So it is okay that you don't practice immediately. But if you can add that also, that's really good. Okay, let's move forward. I think you know what this is. Right? This is with you right now. And these are the senses of what? The taste. They are called taste buds. Okay. This is the tongue, cross section of the tongue. And this area is actually the body, not the tongue. This is where the tongue is for the meditator. Okay. And this part is the tongue. You feel taste only to this part. You don't feel taste here. In this area, what you feel is either whether the food is hot or cold, that kind of things you feel in this area, these areas. Whether the food is mild or whether it is very rough, all that will be felt by these areas. So that is actually the body, because it feels the touch there. The tongue is here, down here in this alley, where the senses are fitted. But you can't see them, isn't it? You will never see them. Till death, you will never see them. Nobody has seen them until they die. Till the death, they have not seen. So that's how the life is. You will never see your own things. But you can address them using your mind. Therefore, this tongue, the senses, they are mental objects because the mind can address them. The taste form of the food will have to enter into this gully from outside. They will enter and they will go into, they will fill this area up to this point. Right now in your mouth, this area is filled with saliva, and that saliva will be having a certain taste right now, even though you may not be eating food. Senses always pick the flavor of the saliva. So it's always working. The moment you get your consciousness there, the moment the consciousness appear, called the tongue consciousness, now the three things are together. What are the three things? The tongue, the senses, the taste form, which may be the liquid called saliva at the moment, and the tongue consciousness, which is the mind. Combination of these three will generate what? It is tongue contact. Immediately with the tongue contact, there will be tongue sensation, and there will be taste perception. And then the mind will generate volitions to identify the flavor. Taste and the flavor are two different things. Taste is the very basic sense thing, what you sense from the food. Flavor is after the mind process it and identify. So the flavor will be identified by the taste volitions. And depending on whether you like the taste or whether you dislike the taste or whether you are neutral about it, there will be resulting a mental state with fetter towards the taste. And the mental state may be hostile of one animal. You know, certain food, some people like, some people don't like. So when that food is in contact with the tongue, certain people will get a lustful mental state. Some other people will get a hostile mental state because same food is not liked by the same amount by different people or different living beings. Think about the animals. Some animals like to eat the wood, like various animals, you know, some of them like to eat the leaves. Some of them like to eat the earth itself, soil. But humans don't, isn't it? We don't like to eat the soil because we feel hostile. A hostile mental state will generate when that soil comes in contact with the tongue here. So what I'm trying to say is that the flavor and the resulting mental state will be dependent on each living being. It will not be same for every living being. Okay. So tongue contact, tongue sensation, taste perception, taste volitions. These things are happening right now if you focus your attention to your tongue while listening to me, even if you like with the eyes open, get your attention to the surface of the tongue. And these things are happening. The tongue contact is happening the moment consciousness appears there. And you will feel a taste. You will feel a taste. And maybe you are neutral towards that now. There will be that kind of a mental state there. Okay, so that is one of the inputs coming from the tongue. Okay, next one. The skin is fitted with large number of nerves. These are the nerves you can see here. The nerve endings are here in the epidermis area. These are called sensory nerve endings. So any pressure, any touch on this area of the skin, the mind will immediately know. So mind consciousness, the touch consciousness should also appear for the body touch to take place. And it's not only in the skin, even in certain inner parts of the body, these nerve endings are there. And if the inner parts are being pressurized by other parts, again, you will feel it. So remember, these nerve endings called the body are not only in the skin, it is there in other inner parts of the body as well. Okay, so what we call the body, as a meditator, you call this part the body. where the physical nerve endings for the touch appear. Then the pressure, the force, which is called the touch, and then consciousness also should appear at this place, body consciousness. So when those three are there, it is a body contact. What are the three? This is the body at this point, and this is the touch, the pressure, and this is the mind, body consciousness appearing at that point. Immediately the body touch will take place. Body touch will take place. You know, if any of these three are missing, we don't call it a body touch. Then touch will not take place. Okay. Then same as earlier, the moment the body is touched, body sensation will appear, which is what you physically feel at that point. Then touch perception will appear, whether it is a rough touch or a mild touch, mind will identify, and mind will further get the details by volitions, further thoughts here. So a moment a touch appears, these things generate, they appear and they disappear. They don't live for a long time, they immediately disappear. So right now, if you pay attention to your body, there are many places you can identify where the touch is very rough. The touch is very rough. Can't we? Just pay attention to your body. And there will be certain parts of the skin where touch is very mild. Some parts are touching your clothes. Some parts of the body are touching the wind or the air. So all those touch you can feel with mindfulness. So that way, when you feel like that, with full understanding of this process of touching, then we say we are mindful of the body. Mindfulness, meditation on the body is done like that. Okay, the next sense is the mind itself. So the mind, in contact with the mental object or the mental formation, and mental consciousness should also appear. When all these three are present, we call it a mental contact. And mental contact will generate sensations, perceptions. This is mental object perceptions. MO means mental object perceptions. Then mental object volitions will take place. And resulting mental state with theta will appear. So this is how some inputs from the senses can change our mental state to a different state. So therefore, if you summarize this, you can notice every input sensor like ear, like eyes, like tongue, and like body, like mind itself, each one of them has their own way of touch, a contact. There should be a contact, and the contact will be generating always some sensations. Sensations are also feelings, right? Some sensations, some perceptions, and some volitions. And the volitions will continue to change the mental state. Therefore, as a human, you have observed that when these inputs come from outside, your mental state will be changed very fast. Mental state will be changed very fast. But although it happens very fast, with proper meditation, you can catch them. You can be fully aware and mindful of those things happening due to the input contact. This is the whole idea of this set of meditations. So in summary, now I explain the other parts also. You can see here the nose form, the smell form comes in, and then sensations, perceptions, and volitions will be generated the moment you apply the nose consciousness. So likewise, all six. So present moment awareness on a activity happening in a sense faculty. Activity happening in a sense faculty is what this meditation is. But I mentioned it is only the bare meditation. But the second part of this is, once that awareness is sufficiently raised, sufficiently available, what do? Then we use that awareness to do the second step called contemplation. Once the awareness is intense and you are absorbed into it, then you can contemplate. You will have time to contemplate. Of what? Like we discussed earlier, how did this arise? And what are the causes? And how will it fade away or vanish? By the way, what are the causes for a sense faculty to activate? Closest cause is the food. If the food energy of the food is not supplied to the eye or the nose or the ear, those sensors, the sensors become very weak, and they become unable to function. Therefore, the closest is the food or energy from the food. But unless the consciousness appears, you can't see or you can't hear. Therefore, volition is also a reason. Previous volition will generate a new sense faculty or activate a new sense faculty. And we need to closely examine each sense faculty arise and pass away. Then another sense faculty may arise and pass away at very rapid pace. Slowly, as you practice these meditations, you will incorporate full knowledge of the causes, the cause-effect relationships. What are the causes? As I mentioned, the closest one is the energy of the food. But that itself is not enough unless the mind generates an interest to activate that sense faculty. It will not activate. That interest is generated by a volition. So food for the sensor, so that sensor is not weak or sensor is living, and then a previous volition that generates interest towards this particular sense faculty. And that interest, that volition is not without ignorance or without craving. So ignorance and craving, those subtle factors will be there. Immediately, you don't need to focus on this. Of course, with time, as you become an experienced meditator, you will realize their presence. But the previous mental volition that generated the interest towards this particular sense faculty and the contribution done by the food will become very clear immediately. Without those two, a sense faculty can't activate, can't arise at that moment. So food, volitions, and these subtle mental factors called craving and ignorance together, they contribute for the arousal or rising of eye or ear or nose or activating of that particular sense faculty at that moment. And when that contribution from the food or contribution from volitions are not there, then that sense faculty will vanish, disappear. A different sense faculty will come because the interest will be on the other one next. So awareness of these contributing factors or the causes will be very important to understand the functioning of that sense faculty. So when they are absent, sense faculty will vanish. Therefore, the appearance and disappearance of sense faculty, which means activation and deactivation, although it happens very fast, it always happens for the causes or due to the causes. Sense faculty arising like this and sense faculty fading away or vanishing with the absence of food or energy from food, or with the absence of volitions, it will disappear, giving way to a different sense faculty. Or in the absence of craving and ignorance, sense faculties will disappear forever in such a way that they will never reappear again if these two are missing. These mental factors, they are very subtle inside the mind. If they are not there, if their drive is not there, a new sense faculty will never appear. But you know that these things are always there in our minds. Therefore, when one sense faculty vanishes, immediately another sense faculty will appear. It has happened all the time, isn't it? Up to now, a sense faculty will always become active. Okay, so this is arising and fading away of sense faculties. Right, with that, we have finished all 6. We will do a small meditation on that after the break. So we will have 10 minutes break and join with the other link for the second half.